Welcome to Mishaps and Miracles. I am your host, JennieV, and this is Queen D.
Hi.
Tonight, we are going to talk about the first time we met, how we met, the mishap encounters in our lives that led us to this place, and all the many years later where we have just come to love each other and to honor each other's journey.
Evolve as individuals.
Evolve as individuals, involved together as a friendship. So let's get started. So back in 2007, I had found myself in a situationship that had been ongoing since about 2002. This individual was somebody that I had grown up with, just been around a lot in my life. This person was around when I dated other people, and he was a best friend of my cousin. So he was pretty much involved in a lot of everything I was doing. So we got to know each other on a friend level, and it evolved into friends with benefits. And in 2007, he had a history of being a meth addict, and it caught up to him. He was involved in a situation where he was looking at 25 years in prison. I was raising his son, or I was taking care of his son. He would come and hang out with me and stuff. I go pick him up after I get off work just to kind of keep him away from the situation. And the child's mother had left the scene, so she was off doing her own thing. And miraculously, during the mishap, I was involved in getting to be a part of this kiddo's life and just hanging in there with my situationship. I loved him. I was not willing to let go, but he ended up getting caught up in some charges. Again, looking at 25 years in prison, and was in the county jail when he met Queen Dean's boo thing. It was her boyfriend, fiance at the time. And they connected through Bible study, and they became friends. And there was
My mishap.
her mishap. So my guy had asked me to reach out to her to let her know where her boo was at and how she can get in contact with him. To which she answered,
Yes, I did. I was at work, and somehow he gave her my work number. So when she called me at work, I was highly irritated, for one, because she was a stranger. And then she was calling about my mishap, who I wasn't happy and pleased with at the time, because he was in there also on the situation that I didn't care to be involved in. And so when she called me at work, asking me, do I know what's his name? I said, it all depends who you're asking and what do you want. And I said, like that, just like that, because again, why are you calling me to work about the situation that I don't really care about? A mishap, talking about a mishap in my life. Yeah, so I would call her when I got out for work, and I wasn't trying to be rude. That's what I said. I said, I'm not trying to be rude, but I'll call you when I get out of work. I'm working. And so that's exactly what happened. I got off of work and I called her. And I didn't get off of work till like 11 o'clock at night, but I made sure that I called her, because when she called and I was being a little standoffish, the Holy Spirit still spoke when I hung up that phone. So I knew to call her. And I did just that. I called her when I got off of work, and that was the time that we talked about the last episode, still for hours, because the Holy Spirit was speaking, and the mishaps that we had made this turned into a miracle for our friendship. And here we are.
So that evening was very interesting, to say the least. So we've also elaborated on that a little bit this last episode. We were talking about how I had just lost my grandmother a couple of weeks prior to this conversation. I had lost my mother when I was young, and my grandmother was like my second mother. And so it was very, very difficult in that moment. And I had literally called out and asked God, what am I going to do now? Who's going to be my sage? Because my grandmother literally was that for me. She was my wise sage. And I was feeling super lost. And Dean called me back, and we just started talking. And I think what probably made me laugh the most is I was like, well, my husband told me to call you because your husband is there with him. And she's like, that is not my husband. And then I was like, well, that's not mine either. But anyway, she checked me real quick on that. At the time, it was not her husband. It shortly became her husband. Like she said, her mishap. But either way, it happened. And do you want to elaborate a little bit on how the conversation went that night, or do you want to maybe graze around what the conversation kind of entailed? I don't know that we need to divulge details, but
Well, you can graze around it.
okay.
You can graze around. And if at a later episode, we might bring it back up again. But right now, we can graze around it.
Okay, so you want me to go? So the main premise of the conversation was really an effort to take the fear out of my heart. Like I said, I was in a situation where this person had been incarcerated for 4 months already, was looking at 25 years in prison. I had guardianship of his son, raising him by myself. There was somebody else involved. We were trying to navigate around that. And my heart was broken. I was in pieces in many different areas of my life. And I called out and I asked God, like, what are you going to do with me now? Who are you going to send me to guide me? Because I'm really feeling lost. And then Queen Dee came into the picture, and that night we had a conversation, and she really reassured me of the promises of God, to put it bluntly. She was able to provide direct responses to the questions that I had asked God, which was a little alarming. At times it left me speechless. And she would ask me, are you still there? I would kind of peep up, and yeah. And anybody who knows me knows I'm not a meek and mild type of person. So I'm pretty zesty. So for her to have me silent like that was a miracle in itself. But I was just really taking in the guidance and the wisdom. And I was not, I'm not going to lie, I was a little freaked out, because I was thinking, how in the world can this person who I've never met be able to answer the questions so exact to what I had asked God for? There were a lot of reassurances that things were going to be okay. But I think we were on the phone. I think she called me back after work. I don't know. You got off around 10 or 11. But I'm pretty positive that we were on that phone call until about 4 o'clock in the morning. Absolutely. I'm pretty confident I fell asleep on the phone talking to her through that encounter. So I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to visualize this encounter. So she came to my work, and I work on the first floor, which would seemingly seem like it's the second floor, but it was the first floor. So she's in the lobby area, and she's standing outside of one of the areas there. She was looking in the gift shop and standing by the window, and I was up on top, and it was glass you could see through. And I kind of walked over to the ledge, and then she turned around and I locked eyes with her, and it was like the most romantic scene.
It really was.
You have.
It was really.
It was probably the most romantic scene that I've ever had in my life, honestly. And it was with this beauty here, but like there was like an instant soul connection where we knew that it was the other person. We never, when we talked on the phone with each other, we never told each other what we looked like. We didn't say anything about our aesthetic and our, what we would be wearing that day or anything. I mean, it was just, she turned around, we locked eyes, and it was like, oh, like, it was really good. It was just like an angelic moment where we were just like, you're mine. I know, you're my soul sister, And so it was just a moment. And, as the time went by, we spent more time together, families, meeting, intertwined. And when I say our families, I mean my household and my boo's family would be around because they were at my house a lot and spending a lot of time with me during that situation. And so they got to meet her and encounter her. And she kind of didn't care who you were. If she had a message for you, she was gonna tell you about it. And a lot of people didn't believe her. And they questioned her validity and did she really know what she was talking about? And is she a psychic? Is she crazy? What I have learned over my time and my experience with Miss Queen Bean is, number one, she doesn't speak and she doesn't prophesy to anybody without clear direction from the Lord. What she has said to people has all come to fruition. Some a little bit longer than others. Everything that she has ever given me as a word from God for my own personal life, whether it be a relationship, whether it be friendships, whether it be like the biggest one was her telling me that I was going to get a promotion that I was advised I would never have. She said I would be having an office with a window. And I was like, that's crazy. I don't work in a business that has a building with windows. And no, that's not the biggest one. That was my biggest work one. That was my biggest work one. And I did have an office, a private office at a remote location of a dream job that I envisioned, and it got created in my brain and then actually became a position a couple of years later. But she's correct. I was told, so I suffer from PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. I had a miscarriage at the age of 19, and I was told that I would not be able to have children without assistance, so fertility treatments. And so, ironically, after my situationship with the boy ended, I took a couple years siesta from dating, and then I stumbled upon somebody, and he ended up being my baby daddy. And so I got pregnant with my son, who's very spoiled, and he is my miracle baby. He is my wish fulfillment. I've only wanted two things in my life. God has a funny sense of humor, because what I wanted more than anything growing up was to be a wife and a mother. I had zero aspirations for a career. I had zero aspirations that I was going to work outside of my home. I was just going to be pretty, be married, and raise children. And so, like I said, God has a sense of humor, and I am still beautiful. But he gave me a career, a very long-standing career, which I'm very proud of. And even today, I was sitting there thinking, like, how many years, sis? I've been there 25 years. That's a long time. 25 years. Blessing. A blessing in itself, which was something that I didn't ask for. So it was one of my bonuses that I was blessed with. I think the good Lord knew that I was going to have a very, very spirited personality, and that my plan to be a wife and a mother is not a far off desire, and it's not unrealistic. It's just that I have not found the person yet that I feel like is going to be my life partner, that my forever, that is going to be able to work with my strong personality and not be intimidated by it, or not feel that I have masculine energy, or that he's gonna be a man who's gonna be about his business, and I feel that I will probably have no problem submitting to that. But we have not got there yet. Come close, but we have not got there yet. All that to say, we talk about this show, Mishaps and Miracles, and what we hope that you experience through our conversations is that we want people to understand that life doesn't always turn out the way that you had planned it. I'm not going to say that things happen for a reason. They do and they don't. Some things are horrendous, horrible experiences, and I am so sorry to those of you who have experienced horrendous, horrible experiences. Our hope, our prayers are that those situations will have, or are, or did help you forge forward.
And turn out into a miracle, because we do know that mishaps sometimes leads to miracles. We are living witnessing that. Sometimes what's meant for bad will turn out for your good in one way or another. You just have to believe that and have faith that after the rain, the sun will shine.
Yeah, the rain is shining. Shines bright. Sometimes it's dim.
It's not shining, so
The rain is shining. It's glittering. You're right, Queen Dean. The rain is not shining. The sun is shining.
I want to backpedal a little bit though. I want to go back into where we was talking about the conversation where we call each other. We called each other in the beginning for what we thought was going to be a conversation for our booze. But at no time on that phone did we talk to 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. In the initial conversation was, he said he here, but then everything else was solely about Jennie and her coming out of the funk and depression that she was in. And we didn't mention them guys not another time. I think every time that we talked, they were a figment of our imagination. And we only had conversation about the situation at hand and what was yet to come and what was happening in the now of our lives. So again, that was the mishap, was these guys to bring us together of something that God wanted to happen. And it happened just in that manner. Just in that manner. Sometimes we just don't know what is going on in our life or the people that we are due to meet. And that's going to be lasting in our lives. It's supposed to be there because we're not with any of the booze. I'm no longer with the man that met her boo. She's no longer with her, but we are still together.
So that romantic encounter, that was the beginning of our friendship. That was, we needed them, and we call them mishaps, but we needed them to bring us together. And that's, we when we look back on our journey and the purpose of all of that, there was many things that happened during that encounter. So us becoming friends was the biggest part. Me being saved because the person that my boo was, incarcerated. And like we've mentioned before, that everybody finds Jesus in jail. You know, and so, you know, and I'm not to discredit this person because I do believe this person is still on a journey with, you know, with his family of following Christ. But, you know, when I look back, that was the main thing is that, I mean, I can honestly say that me having the experience of getting to raise his child, that healed a lot of open wounds that I had from my childhood of losing my mother. There were times that the little guy would cry out. I mean, he would cry and sob so hard because he didn't have his mom or his dad. And he was living with a woman who essentially is a stranger. And I'm pouring all of my love into him and giving him everything that I possibly can. But at the same time, he's healing my heart from the missing pieces and the loss of losing my mother as a child. So, you know, we needed each other. And then my boo sending me Bible scriptures and then, you know, dealing again, like I said, there was somebody else involved. So dealing with the resilience of constantly bickering and fighting with her over a guy, that built my resilience. And if I can say anything to anybody is like, if you're holding on to somebody and they're not giving you their all, they're not choosing you. And it's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because you're just not their choice. It doesn't mean that you're defective or that you're not good enough. You're not worthy enough. You're not beautiful enough. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It just has to do with a lot of times my dad put it so eloquently is that he said men tend to choose women that are at their level. And so at that time, he chose what was at his level, and I wasn't it. And as heartbreaking as that was at that time, because I was young and I was vulnerable and I I didn't understand and I, you know, it broke my heart, but it all worked out. It all worked out for the purpose intended, which was to bring me to Christ, which was to give me this wonderful friend who has had my back. I mean, she even moved away to another state and we stayed connected. And having a long-term relationship isn't easy when you're states away. But we had each other. Back for my boo. She chose me, and that's, you know.
And with that being said, I want the ladies out here to know that you don't have to be chosen. You can choose you. You can choose you. And that is the most important thing when you choose you. And when a man come along, then you already chosen if you're not his choice. That's okay. I may not be your choice, but I'm chosen still by me, and you still be chosen by God. Whoever believes in God, He chooses us. We don't choose Him; He chooses us first, and then we choose Him because He first chose us. And then if you choose yourself, you don't have to worry about a man choosing you. Bye.
Bye, Felicia.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that you feel?
Well, I wanted to add also that while she was being a mother, doing something that she had never done before, she was a great, awesome mother. She mothered him until he felt it. And she loved him so deeply that he thought she was his real mother because he, it wasn't it wasn't any stepmother thing. It was not that type of love. She loved him so deep in her heart, which again, things happen for a reason, but prepared her for the way forward. Because even though the doctor said she couldn't have a child, God already knew she was going to have one. So He tilled the ground, prepared her for motherhood. And she's equally a great mother to her son as well.
And we speak about that mishap. I mean, I was fooling around. So, I mean, like, if we're like, you know, I know the question has come up, are we always going to talk about God on this podcast? And so the answer is yes. We probably will allude to it most of the time. Because when you have experiences that completely change your life and the trajectory of everything that you believed as a lie to be true, you can't help but share the truth about, like, we want people to know that even if things were difficult in our life, that us choosing, when God chose us and we accepted that love, when we accepted that into our heart, it changed so many different things. And, me becoming a mother I was messing around with somebody. I mean, I was not even like, we were having fun. There was no intention to have a baby. But definitely not a mistake. I mean, it was definitely divinely orchestrated. Again, God used that person, that vessel, to bring forth the greatest blessing in my life. And so, there was a lot of shame on my part and regret because, again, my goal was to be a wife and mother. And she would even nudge me, when I was in that situation, and she would say, be careful. Do you know what you're doing? Because you were not created to be somebody's baby mama. You were created to be somebody's wife. That's what you said. That's what you said you wanted. But your actions aren't showing that that's what you want. And so you understand, there are consequences to you being careless, basically. I mean, when you have a relationship with God, when you've been chosen, when you've been called, when you accept, there's that saying, to whom much is given, much is required. So there's a higher level of expectation of what you do and what you don't do. And, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, this person's rigid and this person they've changed. And honestly, if you have a relationship with the divine, you should change. You should see a difference in somebody.
Absolutely.
If they keep saying that they're a Christ follower, but they're lying and cheating and deceiving and not bearing the fruit of the tree, it makes you kind of question like that walk. And it takes people, me included, it takes a few tries. I mean, it's not like a straight walk, like you say yes, and it's okay, hunky dory. I mean, in the beginning, I was trying to do a straight walk. Do you remember? I gave up drinking, and we gave up hanging out and partying, because I was a big clubber. I mean, like, I used to go to the clubs and dance and drink and all the time.
And so here's the thing. In this podcast, we're not trying to offend anyone, but we are trying to allow you all to understand, get a glimpse into our life. And our journey as we met each other was on a spiritual journey. So I didn't meet her when she was out in the club, and I don't have that story by her. She didn't meet me. I wasn't clubbing. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't drugging. So what we have to talk about is God became head of my life and also head of JennieV's life. So we do have stories to tell as far as God is concerned, because he became head of our life. And as he led us into this friendship and into these mishaps and miracles, that's something that we want to tell. We, like she said, we may not talk about all the time, but majority of our journey, which is a 19-year journey, has God included. We just want y'all to understand that.
But as we have mentioned in episode 1 in the intro, there are many stories through our lifetime, cumulative of mishaps that we have gone through. There are a lot of stories that brought us to the point of Christ choosing us and us accepting.
Yes.
And so as we continue to have conversations on the podcast, and as we continue to tell stories, we will talk about loss, grief, abuse, that will include sexual, mental, physical, and emotional. We will talk about child loss. We will talk about breaking generational curses. We invite any small business owners, anyone who is looking to grow their platform, looking to grow a business that they've started, to talk about community events that you feel are important conversations that should be had. Queen Dee will not be my only guest, but she will be very much at the forefront. And we are hoping, and we were talking earlier, that we're hoping that we can get more collaborators on here with us, and we can have a roundtable and really have a discussion and a Q&A and really get the conversation going. Do you have anything else for our guests, our viewers today?
I don't at this time. I don't have anything else. So just want to thank you all for viewing and be patient with us, because this is also a new journey that we are embarking on in our lives as well. We like constructive criticism, but be nice.
With that being said, we're wishing you the best, sending you all our love. JennieV and Queen Dee.